Class, today we're going to go over lesson 3.6, and what lesson 3.6 has to do with is how to solve simple interest problems. So you might be wondering, what is simple interest? What am I talking about here? So what simple interest is interest that is applied to the initial amount of money, and that's only the initial amount of money. So what simple interest is basically is when you go to a bank and you deposit your money, you get a amount of money back based on the amount of money you deposit. So it's a small percentage of what you deposit at the end of the year or the end of a set amount of time. The bank will give you interest, will give you money back based on what you deposited. Now, the opposite of simple interest, or something a little bit more complex than simple interest, is complex interest. So complex interest is interest that is applied not only to the initial amount, but also builds on the amount of interest you learn. Now, you don't need to learn how to calculate this. Don't worry, guys. It'll come later in your math careers. Right now, we're going to focus on simple interest. So some other things we need to know about simple interest is principal. So principal is the amount you start with. So the amount of money you go to a bank and deposit, that would be your principal. Or like say you go to the bank and deposit $500. $500 is your principal. We also have an interest rate. So an interest rate is a percent used to calculate interest on the principal. So this is just like any other rate or percent you guys have dealt with so far. Whether it's percent change, percent error, or just simply a percent of a number, interest rate is simply another percent, just like that. So this is the formula we're going to be using for this section here. It's really important. The formula is interest amount is equal to the interest rate times the principal times the years. All right, so let's go through solving these here. Make sure you get this formula down here. If you need to pause the video to do that, I would recommend it. So our key concept today, simple interest represents a proportional relationship between the yearly interest and the principal or the initial amount. The ratio of yearly interest to principal is the interest rate. Okay, so how we use this and what is it similar to? So it's very similar to percent change problems. It's just like markdowns and markups, except now we're going to find out how much interest will cause change. We're also going to use this to calculate how money grows. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard the expression, money doesn't grow on trees, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. Well, it doesn't, but it does grow from interest. So I got a little graphic for you guys right here. So right here we see an initial amount of money at 0 years. It looks to be about $300. And that initial amount of money is called the principal. Now, after 1 year, we're getting a small amount of money back here. We're getting like a penny back. And that is the simple interest, the amount of money that is added to our principal every single year. So notice after 2 years, we now have 2 pennies. After 3 years, we now have 3 pennies. 4 years, 4 pennies. 5 years, 5 pennies. So a small amount of money is being added every year that passes here, and that's the interest. The initial amount of money we had that we deposited was our principal. All right, so a warm-up today. You start with $10 and end with $12. We want to calculate the percent change. So remember, guys, to find our percent change here, you want to do our amount of change. To find that, we have to do our our new value minus our old value, or 12 minus 10, which is equal to 2. Now I can plug that into my formula here. 2 is equal to the percent change times my original quantity, which was 10, or 2 is equal to 10 times the percent, which means the percent is equal to 2 divided by 10, or 0.2, 20%. So percent change, again, is very similar to what we're going to do for simple interest here. So let's practice something with simple interest. So your bank account starts with $10, and after 2 years, it has $12. Find the amount of simple interest you earn every year. So in this one, our interest amount is equal to the interest rate times the principal times the years. So let's start with our interest amount. So our interest amount is kind of similar to our amount of change, or our markdown percent. What we have to do is we have to find the difference between these two amounts. So my interest amount can be found by taking my new value here, which is 12, and subtracting my old value, 10. So here, my interest amount is 12 minus 10, or 2. So instead of interest amount, I'm going to replace that with a 2. And that'll be equal to the interest rate. Does it tell us the interest rate? No, it doesn't tell us the interest rate, does it? So we need to put a variable here. We could put the variable P. Now I also have my principal. Let's find what my principal is. Remember, the principal is the original investment or your old value. So since my principal here was $10, that was what we started at, I'll do times 10. And lastly, the amount of years. It told me we did this for 2 years, so I'm going to multiply by 2. All right, now we just simply need to multiply these numbers together. I'm going to get 2 on the left-hand side of my equation is equal to P times 10 times 2. Well, 10 times 2 is 20, so I get 20P. All right, now we got to do the opposite of multiplying by 20. So the opposite of multiplying by 20 is dividing by 20. And I get that P is equal to 2 divided by 20, or 1/10, which is equal to 0.1, which is equal to 10%. So my interest rate on this problem, the interest rate was 10%. 10%. All righty, let's go to another one here. Sue. Monica deposits $200 into an account that pays 1.5% interest annually. Jerry deposits $150 into an account that pays 2% simple interest. After 5 years, who will have more money in their account? So let's first look at the interest for Monica here. So Monica's principal is $200. Remember, we're using this formula here. Our interest is equal to the principal times the rate, or the percent, times the amount of years. All right, so our interest for Monica, our principal was $200. Our rate was 1.5%, or 0.015, and the amount of years was 5. So I do $200 times 0.015 times 5, and that's going to give me 15 right here. Now I have to ask myself, is it $15? Is that all she's going to have in her bank account? Well, no, that's how much money she's earned from interest. So the way we find out how much total money she has in her bank account is we add that to her principal, so we get 200 plus 15 is equal to 215. Now for Jerry, Jerry's principal was $150. His rate was 2%, or 0.02, and his years was 5 years. So I do 150 times 0.02 times 5. I get $15. Or once we add that amount he earned in interest to his principal, I get $165. So it looks like Monica made more money after Monica made more money after 5 years. She had $215, whereas Jerry only had $165. But they both made the same amount of money in in interest. All righty, we'll do a couple more questions here. Edward deposited $6,000 into a savings account 4 years ago. The simple interest rate is 3%. How much money did Edward earn in interest? So again, we're using our formula here. Interest is equal to the principal times the rate, or the percent, times our amount of years. So in this problem, Edward's interest, we do not know. However, we do know that he had a deposit of $6,000. So I have $6,000 here. We know the simple interest rate is 3%, or 0.03. And you know he did this 4 years ago. So my years is 4. So I have to do 6,000 times 0.03 times 4. So I get $720. Now when I add that to my principal, I will get $6,720. All right, so right now he has $6,720 in his bank account. And the next question we have here is the interest on a $2,000 for 2 years is $320, and we want to find our interest rate. So on this problem here, we have the amount of interest we know on this one. So this time I know my I. And in this problem, my I is 320. And that'll be equal to the principal, or 2,000, times the amount of years, 2, times my interest rate. So to do this here, I need to do 320 on the left side of my equation, and that'll be equal to 2,000 times 2, or 4,000, times the rate. All right, so to solve for the rate here, I need to divide both sides by 4,000. 320 divided by 4,000 is going to give me 0.08, which is the same as 8%. So it turns out that the simple interest rate here was 8%. Alrighty, everybody. So what I need from you now is to write your 2-sentence conclusion about what you learned today, okay? So 2 complete sentences about what you learned. If you have any questions, please bring them to class tomorrow. I'd be happy to help with them. Peace out, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.